Guys, how's it going? I'm back with another discussion of TV shows, and this time the topic is shows that got cancelled too soon. I think we've all felt that at some point that there were shows that were actually very unique, inclusive and gripping, but they got the short end of the stick while some really bland and repetitive ones went on and on for years. In this video, I'm gonna tell you 5 of my favorite shows that met the former fate, and I hope that you can enjoy them too despite there being no more seasons. But before that, if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell because I post videos every week. If you want to see me draw live, I do that on Twitch and YouTube. Follow me on Twitter to get the latest updates about schedule and all the artworks that aren't available on here. All the links are in the description. Now let's get into the list. Number 1, Selfie. I watched the show years ago, possibly 2010-2011, long before influencer culture was as mainstream as it is now. And while looking to confirm the exact premise of the show, I found some interesting info about it. So I'm just gonna read the premise section of the Wikipedia entry for this show. So here goes. The series follows the life of Eliza Dooley, a junior executive at Kinder Care Pharmaceuticals. She is obsessed with the idea of achieving fame through the use of social media platforms, including Instagram, where she regularly posts selfies. She begins to worry that quote-unquote friending people online is not a substitute for real friendship, and she seeks help from co-worker Henry Higgs, a marketing image guru. The character names are a reference to Eliza Doolittle and Henry Higgins, the main characters of the 1912 George Bernard Shaw play Pygmalion, further popularized by the 1956 musical My Fair Lady. In the play and musical, Henry is tasked with improving Eliza's social status and ends up falling in love with his own creation. The Shaw play is in turn inspired by a story from the Greek mythology, that of Pygmalion, a sculptor who fell in love with a statue he had created. The series featured modern social problems and music. So that was pretty interesting to find an inspiration within an inspiration. Here it's kind of a nesting doll situation with this, how one person was inspired by the other story and then that was in turn inspired by something else. That's why I wanted to read you this whole paragraph. I honestly think this show was ahead of its time. When I actually saw the promo of this show, I was bracing myself for another slamming of social media loving people, because this was a time when the whole phone bad book good concept was at its peak, and on surface level Eliza seems like a shallow and self-obsessed person, but when you actually watch the show, then you realize she is not as she seems on the outside, and each episode ended with both Henry and Eliza learning from each other, rather than the typical premise of the spoiled girl learns life lessons type thing. This is what made this show stand out and made it so endearing. Number 2, Pushing Daisies. I came across this show during my Lee Pace phase when I was looking up everything he was in and watching it. This show is such a whimsical one and the premise is quite unique, at least to me. Ned, a full-time pie maker, is also a part-time dead waker because he has the ability to wake the dead by his touch one time. When he touches them again, they die forever and cannot be resurrected again. He uses this ability to help the local detective solve cases by asking people how they were killed. Things become more interesting when he comes across his childhood crush's coffin and wakes her up as she was murdered. However, he can't bring himself to make her go dead again, and she joins the team. Whimsical is the best way to describe the mood and aesthetic of this show. From jobs to names to sets, everything about this show stood out like no other show ever did. In this show, I don't think I ever came across a regular kind of job, except the detective maybe. That's just something that stuck out to me. It's not that these jobs are ridiculous or funny, they sure do exist, but you usually don't come across these types of people. There's a whole section about the visual design of the show on its Wikipedia page, and I think we should look at some key points. Production designer Michael Wiley told TV Guide that, "My goal was a storybook come to life. I wanted everything to look like an illustration. The distinctive storybook-esque style is continued with the overall design of the visual aspects. Circular background shapes, circular windows, and framing shots within circles was a theme seen consistently throughout the series. Symmetry is a common theme used in the visual style. A heavy use of pattern within the location was often used, where a similar pattern would be used in almost the entire location. when I saw the term storybook like in this paragraph, it just clicked in my mind that how accurate it is to describe this show this way, because that is exactly what it looks like. It looks like a comic book that just came to life. And I think the production designer really achieved the goal he was going for. This show really transports you into a different world of whimsy, and that's what its prime charm is. I wish this show could have had a couple more seasons and a proper ending. We really could use some fun and uplifting vibes these days. Number 3. Girlboss. Girlboss is loosely inspired by the founder of the clothing site Nasty Gal, and it follows through the journey of one Sophia Marlowe, who finds out she can make a good amount of money through selling clothes on eBay, and that's where her journey into starting her own clothing site begins. I really liked Sophia's bold personality, and I hadn't come across someone so loud and outspoken before that. Even if I had, they had just come off as really annoying. But Sophia didn't come off as annoying to me, and that was probably a whole new thing in and of itself, because I usually hate characters with a loud personality. And I really like following success stories, whether fictional or real. It's interesting to me what steps someone takes to attain a certain career goal. It's very optimistic to me. And this show being about clothes piqued my interest even more. I love clothes, and you can probably tell that from seeing my artworks as well. All in all, it was a really entertaining and gripping show, and it's a real shame that it ended too soon. Especially since the last few episodes is where we really get to see the company set up. It would have been nice to see what they go on to do with it. Number 4. The Get Down. I don't think I've ever seen a more hardcore fandom of a cancelled show than The Get Down. The series is set in the 1970s in the Bronx area of New York City and follows the rise of hip-hop and disco music through a group of teenagers pursuing hip-hop and the main girl Mylene pursuing her dream to be a disco star. The characters in this show are really fleshed out well, the topic is unique, and there is never a boring moment in the show. From the visuals to diversity and individual character arcs, everything is well placed in the story. As I said before, I really enjoy following people's journey to success, so I really liked Mylene's arc, and also Zeke and his friends as they learned to rap and write songs. I also loved Zeke and Mylene's relationship. He is just so incredibly supportive of her and rooting for her all the time. It was a beautiful thing to watch. Although I think Mylene could have been a better support to Zeke, she is overall not a bad character despite some people hating her. She has her own challenges going against her conservative family's wishes, and it's nice to see how ambitious and determined she is to achieve her dreams despite her obstacles. In the end, all I'll say is the cancellation of The Get Down was the biggest letdown from Netflix. Number 5. God Friended Me. This is one of my most recent find and possibly the most interesting one here too. The plot follows Miles, the son of a priest who is an ardent atheist. He is trying to get his podcast to get successful, where he talks about his life and discusses his views. Things become interesting when he is friended by a mysterious account on Facebook going by the name of God. This account sends him friend suggestions, and the implication is that he is supposed to help them through some problems in their lives. Each episode focuses on one new friend suggestion, while the bigger arc follows him and his friends Rakesh and Kara trying to figure out who is actually running the account. This show was such a breath of fresh air in these stressful times because the episodes are just so wholesome and shine a light on the good side of humanity, regardless of their beliefs. The overall mystery also keeps you on the edge of your seat. Unfortunately, the show was cancelled before they could give us a proper explanation of who is behind the account, but the show creators have said that they wanted it to be vague anyway. I personally do believe there really was God running that account because it's so much of a more fun explanation. That's what got me into the show in the first place. Although, if that's not your cup of tea, there is also a rational explanation provided by the show creators. Nonetheless, I do hope you watch the show. It has a wholesome plot, a diverse cast, and an interesting mystery. All in all, a very interesting series. So these were my choices of 5 shows that got cancelled too soon. Have you watched any of these shows? What would you like to add to this list? Will you watch any of these shows now? Say all of that in the comments. I'm eager to hear from you. See you next time. Bye.